What's up, everybody? We're here today at the Focus Podcast with my co-host, Danger K. Varoz, Joshua Lucera. Make sure you don't say Lucero, it's Lucera. Also, we got the one and only, and I've been waiting for this guy to come in for a long time. He got sick on us the first time he was supposed to be here. The one and only Jared Saavedra, who is quickly becoming one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the country, really. He's got his own spot called Athlete Ready right here in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Shout out to our sponsors.
Mac 10, Money is King, RSP Nutrition, Rockwell Watches, Ray Dulce Clothing. And you can see here, he's representing Athlete Ready right now, representing his spot. Kind of funny, we didn't get no shirts. We don't have no shirts. I've been begging.
I'll bring you guys some.
Yeah. I've been hearing that for 3 months. Anyway. So Jared and I have had this long-standing... Jared trains very scientifically, and we've had this long-standing kind of beef. I'm going to go ahead and call it a beef.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's start right into it.
Yeah, let's get right
Shots
into
fired.
it. Yeah, shots fired. Pow, pow.
Already.
Yeah. So, my style of, because I train my son. You guys have seen I train my son, right? Well, Jared is of the mindset that if it's not scientific, that it's not going to work.
Yes. That sounds pretty good.
So why don't you just enlighten us?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and enlighten us, Jared? Listen, you had to know this was coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, like Eric said, we had definitely had a few chats about programming and stuff like that, especially for combat sport athletes. And I've seen videos and pictures of him, basically, training his son and throwing rocks and pushing cars and whatever else he got.
But let me say this: he's also a 3-time state boxing champion. He's a state wrestling champion. He's a district wrestling champion. So the methods work. I'm not talking.
No, his son's definitely an athlete, and I mean he's definitely a mentally tough kid. We just kind of joke about kind of the programming behind it, kind of the old school mentality compared to kind of the new cutting edge techniques that we kind of use in sport performance now. So I mean it's kind of night and day. We just kind of pick fun at each other.
What's an example of a cutting edge sports fitness technology?
I mean, doing for example,
like
not a shake weight, but I mean like heart rate variability, really training to the level, the heart rate ranges that these athletes will be using, in their particular sport. I mean that could range from marathon runners to combat athletes to NFL players, stuff like that. So using that kind of technology, just really programming ahead of time. We call it periodization in sport performance. I think a lot of old school mentality coaches is the thinking of more is better, and now that we've come to realize that sometimes less is more. And now that we're starting to see, especially like UFC, all these guys are starting to pull out from whatever they're doing, in their training. So there's a lot of research that's coming because UFC is losing millions of dollars. There's a lot of organizations losing a lot of money because their athletes are either overtrained or they're they want the best of the best now. So there's a kind of a whole new paradigm shift of and kind of new way of training.
Like smarter training,
absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, the goal isn't to try to smash every person and for them to think they have to be almost feeling like they're going to throw up before they leave their session. There's times and places for things.
Ain't going to be any Rocky 3s going on around.
No. I mean that's.
I think I wonder that movie like every show.
Right.
Did you see Rocky?
Gee, I wonder how Muhammad Ali did it.
Right. Well, see, and that's the argument. That's the argument is, Muhammad Ali, the greats did it. And yeah, they ran 6-8 miles. Oscar De La Hoya was running almost 9 miles sometimes. I was reading and that's fine. And if that worked for them, that's great. But we're always trying to look for what's best, what's better. Is there something out there that's better?
I've seen De La Hoya fights and he got tired, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And it happens, and it's the same with other athletes who run for long distances, but they gas out right away. Why is that? And that's when you got to really know energy systems. You got to know that kind of stuff because it's very difficult, especially planning for combat athletes is tough. It's very tough.
More would you say it's more like high impact, low interval type training that's more necessary, like the fast, the sprint level type training? You know?
It's actually all of it. You know, it is a good portion of very high intense movements, very anaerobic, very short period of time of high intensity, but as well as the cardiac output, being able to go 25 minutes. I mean, that's you're putting on a lot of blood flow doing that. So I mean, it goes either way. But with combat athletes, it is difficult. And I mean, I've been doing it for not even a year working with MMA athletes, and that's something I told them right away when they came to work with me. It's like, I never worked with MMA athletes before, but I work with high level athletes, and I'm gonna look at you like I looked at everybody else.
One of the to Jared's credit, one of the things that is super, and listen, everybody here is finding out very, very quickly. One of Jared's, I think, his greatest strength, and outside of being a fantastic strength and conditioning coach, and even though I razz him like hell, is his ability to understand the human body, how it functions, what it takes to make it work. He's very, very personable with all of his, he doesn't train any two people the same way. He's very good about being very specific with, everybody's body type, how they're training, what they're looking to get. And you're realizing, the fight game, these type of athletes are a lot different. I've been, I've trained both of my sons. I've been around fighters pretty much my whole life, and they're of a different mentality. And these are guys, listen, and very animalistic. You have to train them. My thing, and it always will, probably till the day I die, I believe. Like, there's no, you cannot, you can't replace hard work.
Oh, without a doubt.
You just can't,
no.
right? Yeah, I mean,
that's true of anything.
Listen,
anything you're trying to achieve in life.
Yeah, you can't. You got to be able to push past the limits. You got to be able to, push past the barriers, right?
Unless you're playing golf, because the point of golf is to win golf is to play the least amount of golf possible.
Right.
Right.
You know what? That is absolutely correct.
Less golf.
The more, the better
so,
you are.
So, Derek, how would you train if Danger was getting ready for the PGA Tour? How would you train him as a golfer?
Oh man, I mean, first you got to look at the kind of the biomechanics, movement patterns of a golf athlete.
And I just want to point something out. You know how, and you're going to realize this whole conversation. This guy is probably the most literal person you'll ever meet in your life, and you're like that without that. Did you see the first thing he said?
What?
You got to figure out the biomechanics.
Yeah,
of
like go.
Well, I don't know if you can relate.
It's code.
Being so literal, I had to growing up due to my own background. Mm-hmm. So it actually came from mistakes I had made, misunderstanding something. So I'd have to make sure that I understood specifics. Well, what are you looking for? What do you want? In order, that way there's no misunderstandings. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you can relate to that.
No, definitely. I mean, even in this industry, as I was learning from other trainers and stuff, I had to constantly ask, like, well, why did you do that? Why did you do it this way? Or,
right.
What are you going to do next week to change it? How does it progress, or how does it regress, or how does it, how do you?
What's the benefit to this?
Right. What's the benefit of this exercise? And that's when they would tell me, well, look at kind of the movement patterns that they do in their sport. They need to have a lot of rotational strength, a lot of, whatever it is.
How much focus do you put in diet with the people that you're working with?
I mean, nutrition is huge. Nutrition is very, very huge. I'm not the type of trainer, and it really is illegal to write out as a trainer, if you're not a registered dietitian, to actually write out a diet plan for an athlete. So I do not do that. But what I have a lot of them do is, they give me, you tell them to write you a 3-day of what they eat. And then based on that, because I do have sport nutrition certification, but to me that doesn't really mean much if I'm not an RD. But so I'll give very, very small suggestions and stuff like that. Whether you'll see within 3 days,
like overlaying.
Right? Yeah. You're just staying within parameters. You're staying within parameters. But like, for example, with the fighters, since we've been talking about it, when they're trying to lose 15 pounds and whatever short period of time, I have nothing to do with that, and I tell them. I've never had experience doing that myself. I've never had it with, watching someone else do it. And so I'm not going to tell you what any of these types of strategies to lose, that much weight in a short period of time.
Is that something you're going to add to your repertoire soon?
Absolutely. I mean, that's something that, I definitely want to learn more and more about. I ask the fighters all the time, what kind of stuff do you guys, what do you do, right before weigh-ins? What fluids do you take in? Why do you take those in? What nutrients do you stay away from? What, all that stuff. And they tell me, and I want to, I want to get better at that, for sure. That's something that's really, really important. I definitely want to, do some things myself, with them. So I know what it feels like to be at that point. But I'm constantly learning as well. I mean, I learn every single day. But that's definitely, like you said, is something to add in the repertoire for sure.
Do you have your boxing bag up yet?
We have it there. We haven't put it up yet.
It's been there for a month. It's been sitting against the wall for a month.
Yeah,
Are you going to put it up sometime soon?
Yeah, we'll get it up.
Because I want to come in and do some bag work.
Yeah, absolutely. I got some gloves and stuff like that. So
well, I'm just saying. I mean, only the best trainers have their shit together. Like that. They get their stuff up. They don't just let it sit around.
Actually, Josh here has lost some weight recently. He's been trimming some pounds. For the SoundCloud audience members, our co-host Josh Lucera has a very impressive physique. He has the body of Apollo.
Oh.
What kind of a workout regimen? What kind of training do you incorporate daily or weekly?
The body of Apollo. What the what?
I paid him earlier, so to make sure.
$25 for that.
Well, as far as my workout routine goes, it's just the normal gym. Stay with cardio and.
You're very cautious with what you say. Look who you are sitting next to.
Right.
I wanted him to say some things and maybe jump in.
Just the normal. I mean, nothing extravagant.
Do you use machines or free weights?
Free weights. I was always, back based off the old school. I had the old, you work
cement weights.
Cement weights, right, and tossing bricks and your small stabilizer muscles, and that way, at least from what I've learned growing up.
Oh God, you had to these two going at it, talking to each other. We'll be here forever listening to one good answer. Continue.
Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. So, when you use a lot of machines and things, you don't use your smaller muscles in order. So, free weights I've always stayed with, and just cardio. I mean, nothing crazy.
I could have sworn it was you that was telling me some story about how when you were younger, your dad used to bury you up to your neck in sand and had to dig yourself out of it. Is that you? No, that's Eric's kid.
No, that was Eric's kid.
Yeah, that kind of sounds a little bit more like what happened. So let me ask you this, Jared. When you get now.
Well, hold on. With regards to the workout regimen, right? No. Tell me, as far as working out, what's the downsides to it and what's the upsides to it?
The downsides of working out?
No.
What you're
yeah, just normal old school.
No, I mean, free weights are. If you have the opportunity to use free weights, there's definitely a lot more benefits to it. Like you said, using your stabilizers, stuff like that. Your body has to actually go through that movement pattern, like we've been talking about, on its own, as opposed to a machine kind of just helping you through that range of motion. So obviously, you're going to be recruiting a lot more muscles using that.
I've been in physical therapy for a few weeks now because I injured my shoulder on a machine. Doing these
on a machine?
Yeah, I was doing these ones and these ones. I wasn't sure exactly when it happened, but by the time I got home, I couldn't move my arm anymore, and I was like, That's probably related to an old collarbone injury. I got hit by a car a long time ago, but
it could be
rotator cuff.
Trying to rebuild the small support muscles, and they're like, you should have been on those machines, man.
Yeah, well, the thing is with machines is, it kind of makes you go through that range of motion. So for everybody, it's a lot different. Everything's kind of different. So it kind of depends. So if it was forcing you through a range of motion that you're not too comfortable with because of your previous injury or something like that, then that could have definitely kind of triggered that response.
Did you grow up playing your normal sports, baseball, football, basketball, things like that?
Yeah, so I grew up playing football and basketball. Those are my two passions for sure. During high school, I tore both my ACLs. So in my sophomore year, starting quarterback on a kind of a senior loaded team, and it was during the homecoming game, scoring a touchdown. I tore my left ACL, And then, I mean, that year, I couldn't play basketball. And that year, we went to the state championship at the pit, stuff like that. And I was just watching kind of on the
side. Did you still make it to the homecoming dance?
I still did.
Of course.
Crutches. And it was weird at the time. Like, even, I mean, that was just like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, maybe. And at the time, you know, they thought, oh, ACL, that's like something you got to go to the emergency room. So they told me like go to the emergency room that night. You know, so I went, and it was weird because I was in my all my pads, everything except my shoulder pads, and I was just sitting in the emergency room at UNM, and you know, I see my highlight on game day, and it was like that play that I did it on, you know, and I had my jersey on, so everybody in the emergency room was like looking at me like, oh, wow, you like on there, and you know, so yeah, those are, and then I did it my senior year, I tore my other ACL playing football in the homecoming game as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was like the third game of the season, and after that, I mean, it just.
Do you still play at all, or do you?
No, I mean I was doing rec leagues and 7-on-7 stuff, but I probably stopped that like 5 or 6 years ago.
So let me ask you this: as a trainer, now you know how they say you never should trust a skinny cook, or you know, never trust a bald barber, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. As a trainer, do you ever think to yourself like, man, I need to get myself like. I need to be, you know, in order to be a representation of what I do, I need to be a part of that representation, right? Like, does that ever, because listen, I'm not going to lie, there are some trainers out here that don't look like they've ever done.
Oh, that's in every gym in the city. Right? I mean, there's always like.
This is a great topic, though. This is a good topic.
So, I mean, how do you feel about that? Do you think you should look like what you represent?
I think you should be presentable, and I think you should be confident in what you do. If you look at the best strength conditioning coaches around now, they're very average looking people, you know, and yet you have these amazing athletes flying their families over there and relocating for 3 or 4 months just to train with these guys. And these guys are just average looking dudes.
So Danger could be he could pass for strength conditioning.
Absolutely. I mean, if he knows what it takes to get someone to the next level, and he knows how to adapt to each athlete, then there's no reason.
You saw Karate Kid. I mean, Mr. Miyagi did not have a body, but he could catch a fly with a chopstick. That's all. That's like Jared said. It's like smart training.
You know what? When we're talking about this, what I think about is your skit where we're playing the coach. You call everybody coach at the gym.
Oh yeah.
That's what. Have you seen his skit?
No, he knows everybody at the gym.
Right.
Tries to tell you how to work out, but he doesn't have a before and after body. He has a before and still.
Before and still.
Oh man.
So now okay. So let's talk about how you got Athlete Ready started, and let's talk about some of the influences you had. I'm going to throw it here just a second. About some of the influences that you had that were constantly in your ear about telling you to do it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean,
there must be something there.
I do got to give credit to Eric. I mean, he definitely helped me out with that. 2014?
Yeah.
April 2014. We kind of had coffee at Einstein's on the west side, and I was kind of telling him about the situation that I was in currently. You know, I was working for a gym here, and I kind of didn't know what path to go to. You know, either apply for a PhD or I just didn't know what to do really. And you know, I was telling him about I just wasn't going through the best time with the company that I was with, and he said, "Well, why aren't you doing it on your own?" And I was like, "Well, you know, I'm not ready yet. I don't know. You know, I don't know if I have my stuff together, this and that." And I mean, probably 2 weeks after that, I was on my own and leasing out of a different gym, and they kind of let me do my own thing, and one thing led to the next, where you know I had to come up with a company name because for taxes, and then I have a company name, I might as well get a logo, and then it just kind of just piled on.
One step at a time.
Well, take it back a little bit further than that. Remember one of the first conversations we had? So one of my very, very good friends is one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the world, Rob Garcia. He trained Oscar De La Hoya to 8 world titles. He's trained BJ Penn. He's trained Diego Sanchez. I mean, the guy's, he's all over the world. He's been training Robert De Niro, Mark Wahlberg. Tell us about how that conversation went down and what you did. So I said, you want to meet Rob? And here's the thing. I said it not thinking that he would really follow, because, a lot of people here don't really follow through. I'm just going to be honest.
Right.
It's a land of mañana, right?
Very true.
So I told Jared about Rob Garcia, And literally, I wasn't like a week later you were in LA.
Yeah, so
training at Wildcard.
Eric had told me, I'm gonna reach out to my buddy in LA, and he was telling me about him, and I was like, yeah, that'd be great. But in my back of my mind, I was saying, oh, well, you know, everybody says that kind of stuff here, like, oh, I'll get back to you, I'll get back to you, I'll get back to you. So I didn't think nothing of it, and I literally got a call from Rob that night, and he interviewed me for about an hour and a half, wanted to make sure I was legit, and you know, he's like, well, you know, come out to LA.
You didn't think I was gonna come through?
No, I mean, you just never. I mean, I just, you know.
Now I'm finding this out.
Oh. No, you just never know. And he hit me up that night. I was like, wow, like, you know. And then he interviewed me for a little bit, and then he's like, well, whenever you're in LA, like, you know, Eric speaks highly of you. I want you to come by the gym, blah blah blah, this and that. And by in like a week or two, I was out there for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And
training alongside, well, one of the, obviously, hands down, one of the best gyms in the world, Wildcard, Manny Pacquiao, Miguel Cotto. And this guy's over there training and helping Ray Beltran. You were working with Ray Beltran.
Yeah, a
bunch of people.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great experience. Rob's, I mean, he's a tremendous coach. All his athletes have tons of respect for him. And I mean, he works with the most like just kind of random people. And you know, I'd be working with him, and he would tell me after, like, oh, you know, do you know who that is? Oh, no. And he's like, oh, that's the creator of Guitar Hero. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, like I had no idea.
Did you ever hear that story that Major League Baseball player who he'd signed like a multi-million-dollar contract, and then he was playing Guitar Hero, and I hurt himself, and he had to.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
This was like 10 years ago. I just thought of that when you said that.
Oh, that's crazy. But yeah, and I was out there. It was a great experience. I got to go on some movie sets and stuff with him, and it was just like, man, this is just awesome. And we really, really clicked. You know, we come from completely, you know, 2 different backgrounds. But yeah, you know, really, really well.
How do you feel? How do you feel about? And listen, I know you're not one to shy away from controversy and stuff like that. But how do you feel about kind of the support system or lack thereof that you've had? You know, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how do you feel about that? You're trying to start your business up. I mean, because that's a scary thing to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And we've talked about this, you know, quite in several different episodes, but you know, stepping out on your own and doing your own thing, that's a scary thing.
It is.
You know, because you just don't know where the next paycheck coming from. You got to just continue to do your work. I mean, tell us a little bit about that. How you feel about that? How you feel about what some of the other things that have been said about your type of training and you know, some of the other people you have to compete with.
Right. I mean, I don't know if it's just a New Mexico thing or not, but I kind of find it here in New Mexico the most is, you know, when people see other people trying to do something for the community and trying to succeed, it always seems like, you know, there's others that are, you know, kind of bashing, kind of try to bash what they do to make themselves look better or whatnot. Yeah, I mean, it's just here, you know, like I haven't seen it anywhere else. You know, I've lived in different places, Florida, Brazil, stuff like that. And I haven't seen the kind of mentality here in Albuquerque that I have in other places. So,
it's probably not as competitive here, or it is more so.
There's less competition, but the people who are in that competition really, I mean, their character's a lot different. You know, there's a lot less. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot less trainers here, but I mean, it's becoming more and more saturated when it comes to training. But yeah, I mean, everything. I've gone through everything. Like, oh, you know, a lot of people just thought I started training like last year, like that I just started Athlete Ready last year, and that was my first time. So, and I've been training for, I mean, almost 9 or 10 years. Just nobody knew about me, you know. Right. So I mean, I get like, oh, he just started training last year, or.
And listen, let's not get it twisted. It's not like he just for the past 9-10 years been kind of doing mediocre stuff. This guy's been at NFL combines. He trained with RG3. This guy's trained other NFL athletes. Like, so it wasn't like he just came out of the woodwork and decided, oh, I'm going to be a trainer and start a business. Right. The guy's been in the grind for a while. So.
Right. When I was 21, that's when I took my first position with Del Norte Sports and Wellness, a great club, stuff like that. Once I got my undergrad, I started teaching at UNM and traveling a lot. I'd gone to Brazil like 4 or 5 times. And then during my master's while I was teaching at UNM, I was with the strength conditioning department as a graduate student, and I mean, I got to work with some great athletes, some great coaches, It was phenomenal. And then after that, that's when I got into Exos. I don't know if you guys heard of Exos before, formerly known as Athletes Performance. It's the best sport performance company in the world, by far. They're amazing at what they do. And I was there for 6 months, and like you said, I mean, I got to work with the NFL Combine Group in 2013. I didn't post about it much. I didn't talk about it much. It's, it just, to me, was kind of whatever at the time. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I just started like last year.
So what if we could kind of combine the hardcore, like balls to the wall type stuff that I do, and stuff that you do? Yeah,
children. That's not.
Well, I'm just saying, one of the kids that I've worked with just won the state title, beating the 2-time defending state champion, who's a senior. My kid's a freshman. He got placed 4th in the brackets in the seating. No one gave him a chance, and he outgassed his opponent. And it was all, we threw rocks, ran in the sand, we did our thing. He's a wrestler. I'm just saying. Jared, thoughts?
I mean, definitely combining, hard work and rest is really important. I don't think there's no one right system for anything. I think it's just picking and choosing the best tools for the athlete. And I mean, if you think running in the sand and throwing rocks and doing that kind of thing is good, and it's helped them, and they're safe, and they're doing it, and they're safe, and I mean that's what works for them.
It's a little bit more than thinking.
But the thing with that, the only thing I would question with that is like the longevity of them. And their careers as athletes, are they going to be constantly? Are they going to go into college and they're going to be kind of broken down? You see a lot of guys. I mean, go from different programs here or in college, and they're broken down by the time they get to the NFL because they put so much mileage on them. And
what are you shaking your head for, Danger?
We talked about this before. My dad pushed me so hard because he was like to be a professional baseball player. Mm-hmm. He's like, you got the fire, you got the talent. You're hitting home runs out of the park. You're one of the only 2 kids in the whole town who's doing that. You're a pitcher. He's like, you got it. We're going to see this through. And I'm like, okay. Okay, well, I just go all the way until finally, by the time I was old enough, I was like 13, 14, getting to the age where I could actually elect to be like, maybe I don't want to do this. It's like I could not stand baseball. I didn't want anything to do it. I had
it happens a lot.
Completely taco toted baseball.
Yeah, balls flying in my face too, because it seems to be a problem. I'm not really good with balls in my face either.
And that's what happens with a lot of kids, and that's, I mean, I work with a lot of
youth athletes. You can joint degeneration too if you get too crazy with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen with it, but burnout is huge, like you were saying. And I work with a lot of youth athletes. Actually, youth athletes is probably my passion. Probably by far. I mean, I love working with the youth athletes that I have.
But have there been some of these kids? I mean, come on, Jared. Let's be a little bit honest here. Have there been some of these kids where, listen, I think there's a little disease around here that seems to be spreading daily. It's called bitch-assness. I mean, let's be honest. Some of these kids, I know sometimes you got to be thinking, come on, dude. Come on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you definitely have. I definitely have some that are, you got to definitely push them a little bit harder. But what I'm really blessed about is the athletes that usually come to me, they truly want it. They don't have to be there. I'm not like a coach in the public schools where you have 40 kids and half of them don't want to be there.
Yeah, Mr. Miyagi wasn't over at Danielson's house banging on the windows.
Right,
Danielson went to Mr. Miyagi's
exactly.
house.
So it's a little different. It's a little different. So I'm lucky and I'm kind of spoiled at the fact that probably 80 to 90% of the kids that I have, they're there because they want to be there. And it's shown.
But that goes. Here's the thing, though, Jared. To your credit, bro, that goes to all that goes to the credit of how you train. The kids are seeing these results. The word's getting around town. I mean, let's talk about some of the client lists you have right now. Some of the upper echelon type of people you're training: Michelle Watterson, Ray Borg, Donald Sanchez. I mean, you're getting more and more of these UFC fighters going, hey, this guy does know what he's talking about. He cares enough to, design programs right around our specific needs. Right?
You don't get top professional athletes as your clientele if you don't know what the hell you're doing. Right. Period. And that says a lot about you and your company. Mm-hmm. And your training that you work with.
Right. I mean, do you feel? Are you worried about some of the things that are being said out there, or potentially will be said as you get bigger and bigger?
It bothered me at first because I mean, to some of the people I never know, I didn't know who they were before, and
Just
you know, they
randomly
just randomly and it bothered me. I took it personally before, but it's like, well, you know, people are even talking about me and what I'm doing. Like, I might be doing something right,
Exactly.
you know. So, you know, because a lot of these guys come from different cultures and different, you know, methodologies, stuff like that. And you know, people talk here. I mean, it's all, you know, it's.
Isn't it ridiculous?
It is. It's crazy. And everybody knows everybody here. So I mean, but I've
That's
learned.
true.
I really changed these last probably 4 or 5 months where I'm just like, I just have tunnel vision and what we're doing.
And,
I don't care what other trainers are doing. I don't care what they're doing on social media. I don't care what videos they post. I don't care who's maxing out at what and whatever.
Right.
I just don't care. You know, I just care about what our athletes are doing.
How many Instagram followers you got?
Actually, we just broke a 5K the other day. So
Yeah, I already knew the answer because what we were looking them up this morning, like, that's a lot of Instagram followers. Yeah.
I mean, most of them are. I mean, high
So
school
what if he
kids.
knows that? What if he's the kind of guy who has 5K and doesn't even realize? What kind of man is he?
Yeah, and I can promise he hasn't even checked ours. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, right. You're like at 22K or something like that. I've seen it.
Wow.
I've seen it.
What about Focus, the Focus podcast?
I think we have 8.
It'll get bigger. It's gonna grow. It's gonna get bigger. You guys do a good job.
That's more.
Yo, we got one more right now when I said that. We got 9. We had 9.
We got 8.
That's 2 more than what I have. That's 2 more than what I
Okay,
have.
so let me ask you this. Danger's a comedian. He's coming up. He's getting ready for a tour, and he comes to you and says, "Jared, I need you to help me get in shape for this tour." What would you do for him?
Well, you gotta ask him what his goals are. I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot more questions.
Yeah, there's a lot more questions to it. I mean, it's kind of based on his goals and what he's trying to look for.
Because like my double inguinal hernia repair Kevlar match, that's significant.
Right.
Like that's significant.
Yeah.
So what would you want to be proficient at, or?
Good at fucking, man.
Oh, hey.
Wow.
Amen.
Yeah. You know, get that gorilla pump it.
So we just look at the movement patterns and the biomechanics of
Yeah. I mean, it's like, there's a way. You know, or bear me up to my neck and say.
That's good.
Obviously,
Now
those
get
sessions would be
direction.
private because
a lot of glute bridges. A
Yeah.
lot of hip thrusts.
Dude, yeah, he has a plan, dude. You're right.
yeah.
Hey, if you want to do it, you can make a plan for it, right?
You can make a plan for it.
Amen.
So the thing is, here's what a lot of people. And if you follow Jared on Facebook, here's the funny thing: not on his Athlete Ready page, but his actual Jared Saavedra Facebook page. He is he's becoming quite the artiste. Playing piano, he sings.
Before we get into that, I will want to congratulate you on your new marriage.
Oh, thank you.
We
Thank you.
totally
Thank
missed
you.
that.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for
It's
bringing
been
that up,
wonderful.
Josh.
Yeah, good call, Josh.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I was just like congratulating a friend here.
Wow. Listen, personal stuff like that, we were going to kind of just leave to the side. But since you brought it up, yeah, tell us about your Brazilian wife.
Yeah, that's what episodes 2, 3, and 4 of the Focus podcast were all about. Leaving personal issues at the door.
Right.
No,
that's good.
So far.
So I met my wife a year and a half ago in Brazil. One of my friends over there kind of hooked us up. And that was like the 5th time that I had gone there. I mean, since my undergrad, like I knew there was, I just knew I was going to marry someone from not from here, not from out there.
And why?
They're different, man. They're different in those kind of countries and places like that. I mean, a lot more traditional.
Yep.
You know, a lot more traditional. I always wanted that, you know, and that's something I.
When you say traditional, what do you mean?
I don't mean catering and being a complete servant to me, nothing like that, but just someone who truly values like the happiness of their significant other. I think is huge, and just going on dates and stuff like that, and having your drink open for you and stuff like that. I'm just like, wow, like
that happens.
Yeah, I mean it happens, and they want to take care of you, and your thoughts and your feelings are their thoughts and feelings. It's just a lot different than here.
Because you dated a few girls from here,
Mm-hmm.
so you got kind of the taste of both worlds.
Yeah, definitely got the taste of both worlds for sure. It just kind of worked out.
It's rare, and I can completely understand when you have somebody that.
Right. Well, here's the funny thing. When you went over there, you didn't really know. It's like you didn't know the language, right?
Yeah, the first time I thought it was Spanish, to be honest with you. And when I went
Obviously.
when I went during my undergrad, it was a volunteer organization that I went through, and it was something that I always wanted to do. And I looked at the list of the countries that they offered, and I saw Brazil, Colombia, and Asia, all these places. And I was like, oh, I'd never heard anyone go to Brazil before. And then I signed up for it, and one of my friends was like, oh, do you know any Portuguese? I was like, Portuguese? And he's like, yeah, they speak Portuguese in Brazil. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was 20, I didn't know what I was, I didn't know anything at the time, so I was like, wow. And after, I went there, I fell in love with the language. Because it's like a mixture between Spanish and French. It's very beautiful, very, very beautiful.
And when you met your wife, did she know English?
No.
Wow.
No. She knows no English at all.
So you guys spoke the language of love.
We did. It's
Can you not be disgusting? Tasting both worlds? The fuck?
You're making me nuts.
yeah.
Hey, I'm just saying. Yeah.
But as I went there, I studied quite a bit. I even got Rosetta Stone. And then one time I was there for 6 months, and I got enrolled into the university there. So I was going there, and I was studying Portuguese. And
you weren't afraid? Or was it exciting?
It was exciting to me. It was exciting. Yeah, it was exciting to me. And I always have goals other than training and stuff like that I like. I want to learn piano really, really good. I want to speak Portuguese completely fluently. Those are.
What's the language now in your household now? She's here with you, right? Mm-hmm. So when you speak to her, is it Portuguese?
It's just Portuguese.
Really?
Just Portuguese.
That's impressive.
Okay, say something in Portuguese to me. Pretend I'm her. Or maybe pretend. Wait, maybe pretend Josh is her.
No. Pretend I'm her.
Every time I come in the house, I say, oi amor, hi love, como foi a cirurgia? How was your day?
And are there times when it gets kind of hard? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. I'll give you an example here. I was trying to give her a compliment not too long ago, and it was really funny because when he says tell someone like, oh, you're like the rock of us, like you're the rock of our family, you're the rock, whatever. But the little translation is pedra. So when I told it said pedra, like to her, she didn't take it like, because I guess it's not slang, but it's just a phrase and term here, and she thought it was like, oh, I'm weighing you down kind of thing. You know what I mean? So she took it completely, not the way I wanted her to.
Oh, no.
So I had to, you gotta explain for 10 minutes or so, you know what I mean? Kind of do that thing.
Like, no, like a rock, like, what, you're gonna hit me?
There's been times like that.
How great, but I gotta applaud you, bro, like, cause how great is that? You go to a different country, find a girl who don't know no English, you bring her back here so no one can corrupt her mind.
Right.
Yeah.
You gotta import that.
Yeah, you completely did it. Yeah, you went up. All your friends gotta be like, this motherfucker over here.
Yeah.
Then bring her back here.
When you go back to Brazil.
Teach her good English so she don't not know English no more.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
It was funny. We went to.
You don't owe me Eddie.
I brought her to one of the fights, and one of the the coaches that works at Jackson's, who comes in from Chicago, he had spoke to her, and he knew she wasn't from here, obviously. And then after she turned her head, he's like, "You're a legend. You're a legend." And,
yeah. Man, it's funny. Speaking of that language barrier, one time I used to work at a place here for children, and they put me on the deaf unit. I didn't know how to speak sign language at all. So I was on the deaf unit for about 3 weeks, and there's 14 kids on this unit. And one day my buddy who helped me get on this unit, he can hear, but his whole family's deaf, so he knows sign language well. He goes, Eric, go wake the kids up for breakfast. Ask them if they're hungry, and tell them, ask them if they want breakfast. Oh, okay. So I tap the kids, they're all between the ages of 11 and 16. I'm tapping the kids, hey, you hungry, you want breakfast? And like that, stop! Stop! I'm like, so I go out, I'm waking up all the kids, and they're flicking off and on the lights because they're so mad, they're pounding the beds, and James is like, dude, what did you do? was like, I'm asking him for breakfast. He was like, show me what you're saying. I was like, are you hungry? He's like, dude, you're calling them all bitches. This is bitch. And this is breakfast. He's all, are you hungry, bitch?
Rise and shine, bitch.
Yeah, man, all the kids were upset. I was like, God dang, I'm trying to be so nice. And they're like smacking my hand away and telling me to stop and shut up and closing their eyes.
Shut up, bitch.
Yeah, and I'm like, bitch, I'm hungry. Eat, bitch. He's like, dude, but that language barrier.
Absolutely. And there's another example. I was teaching English while I was over there. And when I was calling out the last names, because it's all in English, so these Portuguese speakers, I mean, they're adolescent kids, and the girl's name was her last name was Carvalho, and that means horse, but it's really similar to a word caralho that means penis, and so I accidentally said the penis word, and I mean, all of them just started flipping out and just laughing. And I was just like, here, gringo. I didn't know, you know what I mean? So, and they were just laughing, like, just hilariously.
So, is it really cool, like, for you to, like, take her around town and show her, like, is she, like, in culture shock being over here?
Absolutely.
Like, every day is going to be, like, a brand new day.
Yeah, she's constantly taking photos and of everything. I mean, things that we take for granted all the time, I mean, she just saw snow for the first time when it was pretty crazy, not about a month and a half ago. So she had never seen snowfall before, and she's 30 years old. So, I mean, to me, that's crazy. But even going everywhere, I mean, we went to Old Town. To me, Old Town, it's not the funnest place in the world, but to her, she's like, oh my gosh, and she was taking photos and posting on Facebook, and I'm like, but at the same time, it's like when I was in Brazil, I was doing the same thing. There's all these beaches and all these beautiful water.
Hold on, though. Albuquerque, Brazil.
I mean, it's.
Don't get me wrong. I love my city. I love my city, but let's be honest. I mean,
right. But
what city in Brazil were
it's Niterói, but it's in Rio.
Okay.
So
it's a suburb of Rio.
It's a city. Rio's a state, but it also has a city, and they're connected. It's like Rio Rancho and Albuquerque. It's miles long. It's you just go literally over a bridge, and Rio's right there. So. But to her, I mean, she's just never seen this. She's never seen mountains.
So that's got to be like huge. You marry this girl, you got to convince her to come back to the States with you, leaving her family.
But I mean, there wasn't really much to convince. I mean, she was down for whatever I wanted to do, and she knew that that I had a dream, and I mean, she just kind of supports that. And
that's great.
Yeah. So
I was waiting for her to come. Didn't have to drag her.
Yeah.
You didn't have to sedate her and not around her.
Yeah, I mean, she left everything. She was working with the company for 12 years, and
comes with a green card.
left with her, left her family. So I mean, she's sacrificing a lot to come here. She's not able to do anything quite yet. We're still waiting to get her, her papers for her to travel inside.
Has she been exposed to the spectacle of our presidential election so far yet?
Not as much. I mean, we'll watch the news, once in a while. Actually, we're watching it this morning, and we're talking about, and Donald Trump was on there, and they're interviewing him, and she's like, "Oh, do you think he'll win?" And I was like,
"God, I hope not.
I hope not." But it seems like he has a great chance, But
let me ask you this: since you're one of the few that can actually take off, if he becomes president, would you go to Brazil?
Oh man, if he was president, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, it's but for me, truly, honestly, like even with the last few presidents, nothing's changed dramatically in my life with or without certain presidents or whatever. Yeah, and maybe it's that's kind of a bad thing or a disadvantage that it hasn't. So I don't really have so much of because they all promise this and that and whatever, and nothing ever ends up really changing. But
it never stays in the same.
Yeah. But wouldn't you like someone isn't so flagrant?
Oh no, absolutely
abusive. And
absolutely,
verbally.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's insane. It's
not exactly like we have much to choose from.
Here's the thing, though.
We don't have a whole lot.
Even as of late, have you guys been watching some of the stuff that this guy's been saying? Even as of late, what do you think about that? Seriously, honestly, what do you think about that?
I watched the most recent Republican debate in Houston. Was insane. It was incredible television. It was Cruz and Rubio finally decided to stop attacking each other to compete to be who's second place and who gets to be one-on-one with Trump. And they're like, we just gotta. And they both just laid into him hard, and he laid back, and and Wolf Blitzer And he's like, just threw up his arms at one point. It's just like, I just don't even, everyone's yelling over each other. It was absolutely insane. It's completely hit the gutter. There's no discourse. But, you know, what's also interesting is things that he's saying is he's getting a ton of support on the right, and he's saying really unconventional Republican things. He's talking about universal health care. He's talking about government-run health care. He's talking about how Iraq was a mistake and how he wouldn't be an interventionist abroad, and that George W. Bush fucked everything up, to boos in the entire audience at the Republican debate. So he's saying things that are completely against the grain on his side, which is very interesting.
What
It blows my mind.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, how does this guy get away with what he is saying?
I think it's the spectacle of it, the ratings involved with corporate media news now. People
Has reality
stories.
TV desensitized us that much that now we got someone like that? He's basically good reality TV. That's what he is right now.
I think what it has a lot to do with is, you know, I mean, he may say a lot of off the wall shit, but people, those deep, dark thoughts and fears you have inside you that you'll never admit to anybody else but yourself.
He says it.
He hits on those.
Oh, yeah.
And
There really are a lot of racists in this country, and he's speaking for them, and they're thrilled, and they're
Absolutely.
rallying around him. But
Absolutely.
also a lot of other people who believe that, like people who honestly believe the best commander-in-chief should be a proven businessman because the country is a business. People who believe that also are rallying around him. You know, so it's taking a very and there's a lot of people on the far right and the far left who are disenfranchised with the big, solid core. Monolithic singular party in the middle. Because I was raised from born in 1985. I've been told my whole life by my peers and the people that you vote doesn't matter. Both parties are pretty much the same. We know that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if Gore had been in office instead of W, we probably would have gone to Afghanistan. We probably wouldn't have gone to Iraq, and all that stuff wouldn't have happened.
Right.
There is a clear difference, and it seems like the difference between the centralists, the people like the Hillary Clintons and the Mitt Romneys of this world, they are kind of in the middle of a big monolithic neo-conservative, neoliberal political column in the middle that's pro-business, I mean pro-Wall Street, pro-war, all those things you can't seem to get away with from. You feel like no matter who you vote for, you're going to go to war and you're going to get fucked by Wall Street. And so all of a sudden on the far right and the far left, this election we have these interesting candidates who are not rehearsing, not reading off teleprompters. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are both shooting from the hip, speaking directly from the heart into the camera and saying whatever the hell they're thinking, and they're getting enormous amounts of support, and it's growing faster and faster and faster. Republicans and Democrats alike, whether you're a KKK racist or you're an absolute communist, you know, with your own, you know, chicken farm, you know, you agree that you're tired of hearing rehearsed, agenda-based crap from both sides.
Very
and
true.
so they're rallying around these really amazing electric figures over there. I can't wait. I really, really hope that Trump and Sanders are the nominees so they can debate, because that would be the coolest debates ever, to see like an actual billionaire against the socialist who was chaining himself to black rolls in the 50s. You know,
How do you feel about that, Jared?
I mean, I agree with Danger. It would be great to see those two go at it for sure. From the very little, I mean, I really don't get into politics too much, to be honest with you, but the very, very little that I do.
Well, that's kind of disrespectful.
What?
How self-absorbed are you? There's other things besides strength and conditioning guy.
No,
I mean, not all. Just because you went to Brazil and
I think you brought up a good point with us being desensitized to like reality,
Right.
TV and stuff. I mean, if shows like Jersey Shore and that that brought so much drama and so many ratings and this and that and prolonged for such a long period of time, I think we're just like doing it. It's more for entertainment than it is for.
I mean, there is a part of me that feels like Donald Trump is more than anything, he's getting the biggest kick out of himself.
Right.
Like he really is enjoying himself, like shocking everybody, even other, like you said, he's totally going against the grain with some of the stuff he's saying. And he's even got Republicans going, wait, what the fuck? Hold up. Like, you're supposed to be on our side. Like, what are you saying? But to him, and, I've heard people say this. I mean, I've seen other, high-level entertainers and people who have major voices, in the country speak on it and say, this guy is doing nothing more than just looking for shock value. He's really he's speaking from his ass and just wants to see what everybody. I mean, now I will say this. The scary thing about him, though, he's he's like that. There's a difference between a gangster and an educated thug. Like, like Donald Trump is like, he's educated. He knows,
I think he knows exactly what he's doing.
He knows exactly.
I think he really wants to be president, and he wanted to see if he could try it, and it started working, and now he's just thrilled, egomaniacally thrilled that it's catching on, and he really does want to be president. But, like, I grew up with the same Donald Trump everyone else does. It's 5 years ago, he was pro-choice against Iraq war, funding Hillary Clinton. Like, he was a Democrat forever. All of a sudden, he's not. It's like, I really feel like deep down, like, he's talking about all these progressive ideas. Maybe he's more complicated than that. And I also think, like, people don't want Democrats to vote for Sanders because they're like, oh, it's unrealistic. It's like, that's a bunch of crap. But when it comes down to it, like, that argument holds the water. Like, well, you can't vote for Sanders on the pretext that he's going to give us all of our kids free college because he won't be able to get that passed through Congress. Well, you know what else isn't getting through Congress? A fucking wall on the border of Mexico. He's going to get Mexico to pay for it. No, he's not. It's like, it's not going to happen. So, like, and he's not going to deport every Muslim either. It's not going to happen. He can't do that.
Right.
There's no way. There would be a freaking armed revolt in his country if he tried to deport half a million Muslims.
But like any candidate, they're promised, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. It's always what I'm going to do. Like, nobody ever, you're going to do that? That's great. Nobody ever follows up that question with, how are you going to do it?
Yeah, they really do.
Exactly.
They're asking them, how are you going to do it? Like, they're asking, Hillary's holding Sanders' feet to the fire at their debates. She's like, how are you going to pay for all this stuff? And he's like, I'm going to raise taxes obscenely on the rich. And they're like, oh.
Yeah, but it's a very vague.
It's
a very vague answer. I mean, you don't. I mean, if you want a true debate, I mean, you have to have like.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, guys. What these guys are talking about, though, these other candidates are talking about, I believe, more, deep. They're real deep-rooted country issues. Donald Trump's just like, fuck that. I'm deporting Muslims, Mexicans, blacks are all going to be in one state. Like, he's saying shit that you can't even. How can you even have a logistical conversation with someone like that?
He's pandering to the audience, and you can't. And like, one of the other reasons why we should nominate Sanders over Clinton is because if it's Clinton versus Trump in a race, he's going to do nothing but nail her, like he's been nailing his opponents in the Republican race. She has so many scandals, you can't even list them all. Like, the ones that you can think of are just from the last couple of years. Like,
exactly.
Before she was even when she was the first lady, she was involved in an active smear campaign against all the women who were coming out against her husband. Like, she's been doing creepy political stuff forever, and there's tons and tons of dirt on her, and he's just gonna throw it and pile it and pile it and throw it, and tap into the fact that 60% of Americans polled think that Hillary Clinton is untrustworthy, and he's gonna win. Yeah. When if he tries to do that same shit to Bernie's gonna do what he does at his debates. He's gonna like shut that down and keep talking about free school and free healthcare. That's cool, but free healthcare, free school. Yeah, it's going to be impossible because he has an impeccable record.
Yeah.
He has pictures of him, like, when he's 21 years old, chained to walls and chained to black women to protest segregation, getting drug away by the cops. Like, they're amazing. Like,
jeez.
Have you seen this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Did you see the speech that Killer Mike just did in South Carolina?
I didn't see that. I heard about it, but I didn't see it.
Beautiful, dude.
Well, here's the funny thing. Killer Mike, you know who Killer Mike is?
Actually, don't.
That doesn't surprise me. Hey, come out of the gym a little bit. Watch the news. Now, MTV would even help. But Killer Mike is a rapper.
No. No, go for it. Go for it.
Prepare yourself.
I have a 1.5-minute clip I could play on there if you'd like to hear it.
You want to hear it?
All right.
Listen, Killer Mike is a rapper, but he's
from Outkast.
Right? Is that right? No?
Okay.
All right, check this
If it was
out.
Killer, I wouldn't know.
But honestly, listen to him.
Start this.
When you have an opportunity to tell two black girls to shut up and get off stage and you don't, and you shake their hand and you smile and you step to the side and you listen, that is a firm difference from turning around and staring at a little black girl and saying, shut up. When you have I'll talk to you later. Tell two black girls you're being rude on stage and you don't. And you shake their hand and you smile and you step to the side and you listen. That is a firm difference from turning around and staring at a little black girl and saying, shut up. When you have I'll talk to you later. Black girl, you're being rude on stage and you don't.
Lost control. Lost control of the feed there.
I tell you, the proof is in the pudding every time. If I can find a picture of you from 51 years ago, chained to a black woman, protesting segregation, and I know 51 years later, you're willing to fold your arms, hold your hand, and listen to two black girls yell and scream.
That's some heavy shit, right? That's great.
Well, and here's the thing.
It goes on and on and on.
Well,
But it's
here's the
amazing
thing.
speech.
I mean, I feel like I think everybody thinks it's cool now because he's just speaking on whatever he wants and saying whatever he wants. But I really do have a feeling like, man, if he becomes president, I think we're going to be in a world. I just have this awful feeling. Like, it's great that he knows business, and they're saying, "Oh, businessman should could get our country out of debt," right? But it's not just him doing it all by himself. There's a team of people, and if he brings in a team of people that think exactly like him, I mean, we're fucked. Like, I mean, it's all good and Daniel. We get this guy speaking out, and he does his thing, but we're really fucked. I mean, and you know what?
But we've heard that said about several.
But here's the thing. There's been listen. I don't care what anybody says about Bush or Clinton or Reagan or everybody's like, oh, Clinton was as black a president as we could get, because of what he did. Like, I don't care about any of that. Nobody, not one of those presidents, has ever, ever, ever said the dumb shit that Trump has said over and over and over and over and over again. And I mean, I've never seen any political campaign be as smeared as this one, where you got a guy like Trump, like, and even his own friends, his peers, people that share money with him are like, yo, dude, calm the fuck, like, cool out. You got hood dudes on both sides. You got Ku Klux Klan members going, hold up. Maybe that wasn't the right thing to say, dude. Like, be cool. You know what I mean? Like, this dude's just speaking completely out of his ass.
Based off of what Danger said, I think a lot of that has to do with shock value. And
I said that.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. You
Yeah,
said
he's trying to win a primary.
Right.
And the second he wins a primary, he has to play.
I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I don't believe that him having that business sense back, to obtain all his finances, it'd be hard for me to believe that if he did step into the office, that he would completely speak and do that type of.
What? Are you serious?
Oh yeah, I'm dead serious. Like, I don't know that he would. He might if he did, but I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
No, I think you're.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, this guy's bold enough to say this, on national TV numerous times, to say the things that he said. I mean, like, and Danger brought up a good point. I mean, this guy's literally going against the grain, even against other Republicans. I mean, he's shocking the very people he's standing for. There was a guy on Bill Maher the other night that was like, yeah, man, don't get me wrong, I'm a Republican, but this dude's fucking lost it. Like,
right, he's splitting the party.
Yeah, he's like, this dude's
what's interesting that's happening is Sanders is splitting the Democratic Party in two.
Right.
It's very interesting race. Can't wait to see what happens with that stuff.
Okay, so let's talk about another interesting topic.
Yeah.
Jared, I would love your input on this one too. Probably never watched one of these shows in your life. The Oscars. Have you seen the controversy going around about the Oscars right now?
What about it?
Nothing? Nobody? Really? Nothing? All three of you?
Oh, I know all about it. Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean, what specifically? There's
Chris Rock will be the only black person at the Oscars this year because he's hosting.
Oh,
it.
what is it? The hashtag Oscars so white or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you seen this?
No.
Not a single African American produced film or actor individual was nominated for any Oscar this year.
Is it just African Americans or is it all minorities?
No, African Americans.
Okay. Well,
Yeah. You're in the business. You should know this.
I'm just asking. I don't stay glued to the TV. I'm just
To give
asking.
you an idea, there's a film that's nominated this year that is a Colombian film. It is the first Colombian film ever to be nominated for an Oscar. To give you an idea about what other countries and races and languages are dealing with.
I think it's pretty interesting. Here's the thing. Like, I was watching an interview this morning on the news about this, and I kind of feel that way about Latinos. I mean, there's a lot of Latinos that, what about us? We don't get recognized for.
Hence why I was asking.
Okay, well, I'm going to put you in that same category with this guy. but you know what I'm saying.
Specifics, bro.
And you're in the business.
Specifics.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, well, what about us? I mean, hey, Latinos are, we're segregated in the business as well. Like there's, less than 10% of the population that is in film and TV are Latinos. And I mean, and if we are, it's, bad guy number one or, drug dealer number two. Or
janitor number three.
Right. It's always something, man. And it's like,
that article you had sent me the other day, you were telling me about it was like 7% or something of the Latin.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the case. I mean, and I can see the argument, but I think some of these arguments are a little bit like it's a battle that you're not going to win. But look, the Oscars are still going to happen tonight. Chris Rock's getting a fat paycheck. I mean, listen, I'm not
wondering what jokes he's going to be cracking.
Oh, he's
going to be ripping them a new ass.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's
going to go. Yeah,
he's going to let him have it.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to let him have it. I mean,
that's a great one to have.
But I feel like, well, here's the thing though. He's also getting sandblasted by his own people.
For still hosting it.
For still hosting it. Like, his own peers are like, man, dude, like, really? For real? And I think that's... Listen, man, I mean, it's like...
You should watch the Oscars and see what kind of new asshole they'll be happy about it.
Yeah. Right.
Chris Rock's brother is actually... They're having an alternative African-American-only Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
Deaf Oscars or something.
Mm-hmm.
Def Jam Records is having their own Oscars. And Chris Rock's brother is hosting
Tony
that.
Rock.
Yeah, Tony Rock. He's going to be hosting that. And they'll be, like, competing events, which will be interesting. But, yeah, I think it
only going to become more and more segregated as time goes on, I believe.
Right? My goodness.
Especially this leadership.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, too. I think that, again, I think it's a shame because there's so many good films out there. There's so many good, brilliant actors out there that deserve credit. They deserve rewarded for their hard work. There's many producers out there, African-American producers out there that deserve this credit. And I do think it's a shame that, they're not one of them, not one have been nominated. That blows my mind. But I think that's also says the same thing for Latinos. There's many great Latino actors out there. There's many brilliant Latino producers and directors out there that aren't getting their just due. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's funny, and this kind of goes back to like the stuff we were talking about earlier with Athlete Ready and the competitional stuff. Even here, I'll say this. It really fucking chaps my hide, and I just got to say this. Like, it really... And now I know why I haven't gone on my Facebook timeline, the actual timeline, for months. I stay on my page, and I post from my page, because I don't want to see all the negative bullshit anymore. You know what I mean? I don't want to see it. I want to hear what anybody else is doing. I want to see what anybody else is doing. And today, I was like, I'm going to go check. And I looked, and one of the first things I saw is, and it's really, for me, it's kind of shitty because, like, I'm watching these people that, I've included in every single project I've done. Anything I do, I include a lot of these people in. I'm always reaching out, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Do you want to be a part of that? And I see these people, they've got projects going on all over town. My phone never rings. I never get a call. I don't get, I'm not just saying that, oh, woe is me kind of shit, but like,
no, that's the truth, though.
It's the truth. Like, I'm just like, wow, really? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've given you opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. I've always included you in shit. And like, you're out, you're filming this, you're filming that. Maybe throw my hat in,
People forget where they come from.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
I mean, Danger, I know we were talking about this with the comedian side of things, you're a good comedian. You're a hardworking comedian.
Thank you very much.
No, for real. You see these other comedians, and I know even your boy Kevin was talking about this. You see these other comedians that you help, and then they go out and they do all kinds of shit on their own, and then your phone never rings. They never call. They never, hey, you want to be a part of this? Or, it's like that reciprocal, it's that reciprocal type of...
One thing I've noticed, just in the entertainment industry, but in law enforcement background and other endeavors, is people, and it's unfortunate, but our generation usually steps on somebody in order to get higher. I'm sure it's true of all generations, but I've noticed a lot.
Well, Jared said it himself. He was like, I've trained in other states. I've been to other states. I've never seen anywhere else how it is here.
Unfortunately, it is pretty strong here, and I don't know if it was because of our how we were raised or our culture or.
It's like that crabs in a bucket mentality.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly.
You know what I mean?
Crabs in a bucket is exactly.
Right. It's like. I'm thinking to myself, really, and then I feel like, well, should I say something? Should I not? Should I really matter, or should I just stay focused on what I'm going to get done? Because I will say this, it's kind of funny. You know, a lot of people think that money is king maybe has been stagnant for a little bit, fallen off. We've kind of fallen off the tracks. I can tell you it hasn't fallen off anywhere.
Money is what?
Money is king.
Money is king.
I'll start your shit.
Money is king. Oh, money is okay.
Don't start your shit. Won't you start your shit? and I can, you know, what's funny is, here's what's funny, is when the announcement's made, trust me.
Everybody will be wanting.
Oh, the phone will start ringing again. But I will say this, man, don't be sad. Don't be mad when your phone doesn't get answered. Your phone doesn't get answered.
Yeah.
Don't be mad when, you know, I don't pick up the call or we don't pick up the call. I mean, that's all I'm saying. I mean, you know, I mean, I get it. Everybody else has to go out there and get theirs by any means necessary. But, you know, that reciprocal thing.
You help each other.
You help each other, man. Like, you help each other strive.
And I think the ones who do make it and do end up leaving and have successful, you know, careers and what they're doing, you know, a lot of them don't like to really claim Albuquerque as a
Yo, I heard Neil Patrick Harris say it one time because he was getting jazzed for it, and he said, "Why? Nobody. When I was in Albuquerque, nobody helped me. In fact, everybody tried to hold me back and step on me." Freddie Prinze Jr. said it. I mean, I've heard a lot of people, and you know, I'm just saying. I mean, it's like, fuck. I mean, when is it ever going to change? I mean, when can we really start helping each other? Like, you know. I mean, it's just one of those things where I feel like people here feel like, oh God, if anybody else gets bigger than me or does something bigger than me, then you know, I can't have that. I can't have that. You know, it shouldn't be that way. I think we should all really try to help each other, and if there's opportunities for us to grow with each other, I think that's how you make major moves, by getting a collective amount of people who all want the same things, and you help each other achieve those goals. It's like the old saying, you know, help as many people as you can get what they want, and you will get what you want as well.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I didn't get very far. I felt like kind of excluded from the scene and ostracized in the first few years of stand up. It was hard to get in, and people were like, "He's this fucking danger guy," you know, like he thinks he can show up, named Danger. What an asshole! Giant asshole. You know, like I'm working hard at this comedy, and this dickhead shows up, and it was really hard to get in, and I didn't get anywhere because I felt bad about it for a long time. Like I had self-doubt and everything, and I didn't really start getting the respect from other local comics until I stopped begging for booking on other shows and started hustling my own venues.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, and now I have keys that I can. You want to get on this stage, you want to get on this stage.
Right.
You have to be fucking cool with me. You have to play ball. You know?
Right. But the thing is, you actually do that, and you give other people opportunity, and you know. Can you imagine if there were 6 other comedians that were all doing, because everybody has their own network, everybody does their own thing, you know what I mean? That would be like, you know, some of these other trainers in town going, hey, you know, we can't, you know, maybe we can't fit you in, or hey, but have you checked out Jared? You see Athlete Ready, like those, he's doing it right. Like if we don't have the time or room for you here, you know, most people won't do that though.
Yeah,
No, they'll never point somebody in your direction.
Oh, no.
Because it takes away from them.
Fuck that Athlete Ready guy.
Right.
You know.
I think it starts at a young age here, and I think it's learned. I will say that the event that you put on at Rio Rancho, afterwards I went home kind of disappointed, and I even made a Facebook status about how even at the youth athlete level, the kind of bitterness coaches have towards others. And this and that. I won't go into. Yeah, you were there as well.
Yeah.
We spoke about it.
Yeah.
And I was super disappointed.
Oh.
But yet I'm so used to that kind of stuff here that I just, I had to say it on Facebook, and I talked to my closest friends about it, and I'm like, man, and I told them about the details. I don't have to go into details about it now, but I mean, I was just super disappointed. We have a Kyle Dake, who's an amazing wrestler. Everybody knows who he is. He's like the LeBron, Kobe of wrestling. Everybody knows.
Let's explain what happened. We don't have to get specifics of the school. No, the schools. But I'm just saying, like, we had a pro wrestler, Kyle Dake, come in to speak and give training to children, wrestling advice. Myself and Jared were speakers at this event, and Eric had put it together. And I was ignorant to the fact of how much one school hates other schools, and like this event is completely for children and for bettering their
right. It's about the kids and their development, their opportunity to meet.
And it had nothing to do specifically with the schools.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the schools, and that's what's crazy.
Well, it's funny because all these guys want to be the best, and Kyle said to me on the way back to the airport that next day, he was like, listen, don't get it twisted on the East Coast. And listen, that's a real wrestling country. Those are real, like, I'm not putting anything, I'm not saying anything about our wrestlers here. We have great wrestlers here, but I mean, when you come from an area in the country where it's wrestling, God's country for wrestling, like, the best in the world are there. And Kyle said, we don't segregate each other. We help each other. Like, we might fight like cats and dogs on the mat, but when we're off the mat, we help each other in each other's rooms. We train with each other. He's like, and he said, I've never felt anything like this. I've never been one. I mean, I usually have 300-400 kids in my clinics.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, and here's the funny thing.
It was a great event.
Nobody's ever brought in a guy like Kyle Dake to New Mexico. Ever. That would be like, someone bringing LeBron James for a basketball camp. And 2 or 3 high schools going, I'm not going to register my kids in that. We're not doing that.
Because it was held at a specific venue as opposed to another venue.
I mean, that's just so. But again, it just goes back to that learned behavior. And hey, we're not going to.
And I think these kids are getting used to that. Like, oh, this is kind of normal, And so by the time they're adults, young adults, I think they get that sense of entitlement and stuff like that. That's what's really. I think Albuquerque's growing at such a high pace that we're not ready for.
Right.
We still have the crabs in the bucket mentality.
Oh yeah.
Small mind mentality that we can't allow things to just to go.
Well, since we've established that you don't watch TV or the news and don't know anything about entertainment or our politics, let's talk about some stuff you do know something about. Wouldn't you agree, Danger? What do you think? Yeah. Whose idea was to bring this guy on the show anyway? Man.
It's not too late. We can get rid of it.
Yeah, holy. Cut this show 30 minutes early.
We still have time for 20 minutes of good show.
Yeah.
Jared.
So, Jared, tell us about some of the fighters that you're training.
Currently, I've been working with John Dodson on his camp. He has a fight coming up in April. It's been great working with him. He's a great guy. Worked about a month and a half with Diego Sanchez for the first part of his camp until he started getting to near the end of his. Donald Sanchez, I just started working with a guy named Dominic Waters, who I think has a lot of potential in the UFC. He's super athletic, very, very athletic. Just had some bad luck with his last few fights, getting them on short notice. So it would be my first camp with him as well. Like you said, Ray Borg. There's Amanda Lovato.
Now, let's be clear. Ray Borg could be a potential opponent for John Dodson. And I think we had a conversation about this.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can happen in the future.
Any chance of them there showing up at the same time?
No, and even if they did, I mean, they would be completely professional.
Because you wouldn't have that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Jared don't play.
I wouldn't play that.
Jared don't play that shit. Just so you know, Jared don't play that.
But no, I mean, they're both professionals, and what's really crazy is to see the difference of them in person and how they are in real life compared to whatever image they have of in the UFC or whatnot. Completely different. I mean, with John Dodson, I watched his UFC embedded, and his last one with Demetrius and stuff, and I seen it, and I mean, just night and day in person, just super humble, night and day, man. Just night and day. It's way different.
I just did a movie with him. Me and him are fighting in a prison cell together, fighting each other.
Oh wow!
In a movie called Shot Callers, and it was kind of.
What was the motivation of the guys in the prison cell fight?
Really? You really want to know? So, where it's me, him, and 2 other guys, and they bring in the.
Why don't you take off your pants?
I said you got a pretty mouth.
Are you guys gonna be serious? So I can tell this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm talking about serious acting here. You guys are fucking up, talking shit.
Get serious.
So we're in a cell, and apparently somebody says something else to we get into this. It's 2 Hispanics against 2 African Americans, and John Dodson happened to be the other one, and the guy that's hiding for his life is one of the stars of the film, and it was pretty fun. I mean, working with John, it really was. I mean, he's a really cool guy. He's always got a smile on his face.
Yeah,
at one point, the director was like, "Hey, man, what do you?" You can't smile.
Right.
You can't be smiling while you're beating up this guy. You gotta like be serious.
Yeah, he came in, Ninja Turtle pants and everything like that. But he works hard. He's just, I mean, they've all been cool.
Now, do you ever get intimidated at the level because like you said? I mean, on the fighting side of things, I mean, these are kind of like some of your first ventures into these types of training. This type of training. Do you ever get intimidated by going, I have to come through because listen, if we win with John Dodson or we win with Ray Borg, I mean, more people are gonna. Right. I mean, because listen, they always say, you're only as good as your last fight.
Absolutely.
And when you lose, they don't.
Absolutely.
They also look at the people that you're surrounding yourself with.
Absolutely.
I mean, do you ever worry about that?
I mean, not as much. I know that's gonna kind of come with the territory. If someone doesn't look in good shape or they don't look whatever, who's he training with? Oh, what is he doing in his camp? Oh, what is he doing? That kind of stuff, and I really don't care too much about it. I mean, it's going to happen, but if that was the case, then, I mean, every single coach would be a failure because I think every coach in MMA, strength conditioning, I think their athletes have, not shown up at some point, But,
or you could make the one time this guy sandblasted me on Facebook. Yeah, Derek. He's like, well, only Chuck Norris and Eric Martinez can get away with that. I'm like, well, I'm fucking slapping this dude right now. Delete.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, they're only as good as their last fight. I think it's true for the most part. It's unfortunate. I think it's unfair, but that's kind of what the public sees.
Right.
And I mean, it's every fighter is different. And at first, it was very difficult to get used to it because some will tell you like, oh, I may have a fight in 2 weeks, and you're like, 2 weeks, like, shoot, like, I'm not ready for that. You know what I mean? I'm not ready for that. I don't know. So you got to look at the programming and stuff like that, and with the fight game that I'm learning,
you have to be realistic with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you really do got to be realistic, but you could be such a key component for their fight or whatnot. I mean, I think strength conditioning is huge. It's a huge component in combat sports. I don't truly believe that it necessarily wins you fights. I think you've got to win based on your skill. I think that's well. But hold on, listen. I don't think it wins you a fight. I mean, you got to win based on your skill. Whether it's submission, knockout, whatever it is, like you had to have trained that skill for you.
Speak on that.
For you to do it. However, I mean, your conditioning can lose you a fight. So I don't think it wins you a fight, but I don't think it loses you a fight.
I'm going to let you finish. So Beyonce had one of the greatest music videos of all time. I'm going to let you finish.
Yeah, thoughts about that, Terry?
Wait,
he didn't see the Beyonce
video. You just
video.
said that you don't think conditioning wins you a fight?
No, I'm sorry. I think strength conditioning, it doesn't win you a fight. You win based off your skill, but you can lose a fight based off
Okay, man. All right.
No, wait, hold on.
I said that at first, and I think
hold on. Here's the thing.
Tell us the thing.
This is what I'm a firm believer of. I think skill plays a huge part in it. But you can be the best fighter on the planet. You can be the best wrestler on the planet. You can be the hardest hitter, hardest kicker, best jiu-jitsu practitioner on the planet, right? But if you run out of gas, your body doesn't survive on technique or skill. Your body is fighting to survive, literally.
Right.
Here's the thing.
But so you're basically agreeing with what I just said.
No, you said
if your conditioning is not there, everything else is gonna lag. That's what loses you the fight. Is what I'm saying. It loses you a fight if you're not in good shape and in good condition. It can definitely lose you.
No,
a
you
fight.
said skill.
And I think it is a skill to not burn yourself out. That's one of the skills of fighting, right?
Well, I think it's
Absolutely.
part of the game plan, and that's another thing is you work with the fighter, you ask them what the game plan is, you talk to their coach like, okay, he wants to get it on the ground, like he needs to have good grip strength, he needs to be explosive, stuff like that. But in the fight, the fight game, it doesn't always go to plan. And they could be running around. So they could be running around the octagon, and that's not what they prepared mentally for. That's not what they prepared physically for. But it was something that they had to do, and that's so the other person won.
Here's a perfect example: Floyd Mayweather.
Man, I was just thinking about it.
Here's the funny thing, man. People think Floyd's all show and flash, and they see him on these HBO and Showtime specials, all access, right? And he's spending millions and millions. People have no idea. Like Mac 10. I got Mac 10 to sponsor a Floyd Mayweather camp here 3 years ago. It was a junior for kids. And we took kids to the Floyd Mayweather gym to train alongside Floyd Mayweather. It was boxersponsors.com and Mac 10, and we called it the Floyd Mayweather Experience. And because I know people on both sides, we were able to make this connection. And Edwin stepped in and was like, when I went there and I saw Floyd train, and I told him, I was like, when you see him train, you're gonna freak out. And it's not just 2 hours here, take a day off. Yeah. This dude, it's 3 and 4 workouts in a day. He's like, who? I mean, 6 a.m., 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 9 p.m., 2 p.m., 2 a.m. in the morning.
I heard he like straps weights to his ankles and just runs backwards like 4 times a day.
Hold up!
Do you have that in your workout regimen?
No.
It's like this whole thing.
More weight! Put more weight on his ankles! I'm going to go on record and say that I've never heard that in my life. And listen, here's the
I'm going
thing.
to go on record and say that I could run away faster than Floyd Mayweather can run away.
Jared, how do you feel about that?
That's a challenge.
It's interesting that you bring up boxing. I think boxing, I think it's different than MMA, obviously. The work time is completely different. It is. It's different. I think I think boxing is even more behind than MMA when it comes to strength and conditioning. But I mean, it's worked for Floyd. I mean,
Boxing seems to be locked in tradition.
It
Yes.
is super locked in
Yeah,
tradition. It is completely locked in tradition, and I don't know when.
I mean, there are
that will
people
change.
starting to come around. I mean,
Right.
Miguel Cotto hired a superb strength and conditioning coach. Manny Pacquiao has a superb. I mean, there are fighters that are finally catching on, going, hey, we need a nutritionist. I need a nutritionist. I need a strength and conditioning coach. I need somebody for my specific needs. But here's the thing: it all goes back to that. Like again with Floyd, and he's not by far. I love Floyd. I think he's a great fighter, but there is something to be said. You see boxing, you want to see a fight, you want to see a track race, right? But Floyd is so skillful because his body can endure. I mean, he's training for he's training for a 25-round fight. So that's why when you see him in the 12th round and he's still moving and jabbing and running,
Yeah.
that's why. I mean, because the
Still has
guy.
energy to it.
Because the guy trains like an animal. I mean, I wouldn't.
So there's nobody else that trains exactly or just as hard or harder than him on the planet. Nobody.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
But that's my point. Is like
He didn't
you're
win
gonna
because
win.
he trained
He's so skillful. He wins on his skill. Yes, he's in great shape, but ultimately at the end of the day, he.
But you can only
doesn't
have
get
that
hit,
skill.
and he hits.
But you can only have that skill because you're in the shape that he's in.
You can continue it, but you don't learn those skills through.
Because
There's a certain
Right.
strategy he's
Exactly.
using to win, and he only has to be so fit to execute that strategy. And any past
Exactly.
it is absolutely unnecessary.
That's my point.
I
That's my
agree with
point.
that. I
That's my
definitely
point.
agree with that.
So if he's fighting a 12-round fight of 3 minutes, like his max effort needs to be, his total work capacity needs to be 36 minutes. He needs to give all 100% of his body.
Remember, it's like
36
Jaron
minutes.
Solomon. He was telling us, he's like, it'd be a cold day in hell before I'm running a mile. When am I going to run a mile? No, I never do that. I'm a
Right.
sprinter.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's an
Whatever
Olympian.
it is. Yeah, he's an
Exactly.
Olympic sprinter.
So he's not going to be running 2 or 3
You're
miles.
speaking the same language. I mean,
Yeah.
It's just
It is. No, it is.
No.
So when I said like conditioning doesn't win you fights, it definitely loses you fights. And I think a lot of strength conditioning, the best ones, and it's funny that you brought this up because the best strength conditioning coaches and that work with MMA athletes, boxers, everything are guys that weren't MMA. They don't have a background in MMA, or they weren't fighters themselves. And I mean, these guys have a same philosophy when it comes to that. And like our job, like it's difficult when it is with combat athletes because there's nothing that I can do to simulate, and I never ever try to simulate a fight in our conditioning because there's absolutely nothing, and there's nothing I can do to make you feel the way that you feel in a fight when you're completely 100% gassed.
right.
To me, my philosophy, and this is my change with different strength coaches, especially here, is if you're not pushed to that level in your sparring, you're not going to get it elsewhere. You
don't feel like you can get pushed to that level training?
No, because absolutely not. And I can make you throw up. I can make you feel like crap, this and that. But to make you feel the way you feel in that, there's no way.
Well, here's the
There's
thing.
no way while you're getting punched. There's no way. I can completely break you down. but you're still at the end
Yeah,
of the
but
day.
learning to go into deep waters while you're training. I mean, if you can go into deep waters while you're training, when you're in that ring or you're in that octagon, you can go into deep waters and know that your body's not going to shut down on you. You don't have to panic. You know what I mean? You can handle. Listen, these guys are fighters. They're used to getting hit. It's not having to simulate the same thing. But conditioning wise, you take me into deep waters. Listen, if I'm training with you, I want you to stretch me past my limits, because in the ring and in the octagon, I'm going to be stretched past my limits. And if my body's not conditioned to do that, there's a chance I may lose.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I think you might have
Throw rocks, push cars, fuck that scientific.
You probably have a different perception of kind of what we do. I mean,
Eric has to be right with it.
Yeah.
His kid's a big apology.
Because there's definitely points in the camp where we stretch him out, like you're saying.
His fucking idea was to bring him on.
Definitely, I mean, there's definitely points where I definitely push them past their limits, absolutely, and there's time and place for it. But at the end of the day, like, I think my job is to help build that engine, not go take that car for a joyride. To me, that's their coach's responsibility, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
I can understand that.
Of course you would.
Ours is building the engine. I'm not an MMA guy. My job is to build the engine. You know what I'm saying? And they need to get their ultimate MMA conditioning through their sparring. If that makes sense. But at the same time, like, for example, we use heart rate monitors quite a bit in our training. Okay, I'll have some of the guys like, hey, during your sparring today with mitts, because that tends to be when your heart rate's the highest, is when you're hitting mitts really hard. Okay, I want you to tell me what you get, and they'll tell their coaches, like, hey, I need to check my heart, just whatever. This is just for training purposes. Okay, so I'm like, I want you to give a full out effort for these 3 rounds, the same amount of time you're gonna put into a fight. Just say it's 3 rounds, 5 minutes each fight. I want to see how high your heart rate can get and how long you can keep that heart rate keep it that high for how long a period of time. Does that make sense? Okay. And based on that is based on how we train. Does that make sense? All throughout a fight, their heart rate ranges like crazy. When there's people who are gassed out in 20-30 seconds from an exchange for 20 to 30 seconds, but you see them on embedded running for 5 miles, they weren't prepared for that 20 seconds of 100%.
Like, it's too bad they were in a fighting competition and they're running for 5 miles.
Exactly. So again, the goal is to maximize that. They have 15 minutes. They need to maximize everything they possibly got for 15 minutes. If that makes sense.
I've heard many great trainers say, if I'm training for a 15-minute fight, I'm going to train you for 30 minutes. So you have the endurance to fully last your 15 minutes and then some, because you always have reserve. You always have a reserve to pull from, because anything can happen in a fight.
Absolutely.
It can get extremely fast and heavy paced for a long period of time.
Right.
I mean, and if you're not look at Conor McGregor when he fought Chad Mendes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all saw what happened.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was this close, and guess what he said? He said it himself. I needed to be in better condition. He didn't say, my skill, he said my conditioning, and Chad Mendes came in, he took that fight on a if he would have fought an in-shape Chad Mendes, I think you would have seen a much different fight. But Chad gassed out, and Conor was, literally all that, it became a will of heart at that point. Both their bodies were fighting to survive. It had nothing to do with skill at that point. And Conor pulled it out. He did. But he said after the fight, he was like, I've got a lot of work to do. And he trained for 3 months for that fight. He should have been in crazy shape. And he said, I've got a lot of work to do. I got to change what I'm doing strength and conditioning wise.
I'm sure that's true, but if you're working for your whatever his training regimen was for 15 minutes, half hour, whatever, okay, well then correct me if I'm wrong, but then you just move it to a half hour or an hour of training.
How do you prepare someone for a fight? How would you prepare someone like Rousey for that beating that she did? Would you hit her in the head with a log every day for 2 weeks?
That would be something Eric would do.
Yeah.
That would be part of
me and Chuck Norris.
That would be part of his.
This is part of hard work.
But let's just be clear.
That was kind of harsh to bring up.
You can run your kids up and down the hills. It's worked for them. It's not. I mean, if
Be
that
careful
works,
what you say, Josh.
No, I'm saying
Jared gets to leave.
No, I'm saying if it works for them, absolutely work. If hanging off a rafter worked for me to get in better shape, I would hang off a rafter regardless of what anybody else says.
Yeah.
Everybody's body is different.
No, there is going to come a time. I will say this, and I mean this wholeheartedly. There is going to come a time when I actually do take on this to Jared, because there's as a boxer and a wrestler, there's a lot of things that I know that he definitely needs that probably nobody else here could help him with but Jared. So I mean, you know, I talk a lot of trash, and it's more so just to, you know, because I learn every time I talk to Jared, I learn something new. I don't practice a bit of it, but I learned something new. But no, you know, I want to bring Andres to you because I want you to help him, like with his fast twitch movement. I want you to help him learn how to pivot more into his shots. And I mean, and you'll see when you work with him, you'll see he is in very, very, very good shape. But I know that there's things that you can do with him that will push him even further and excel his performance level. You know what I mean? Because there is a big difference. There's a big difference between, you know, working out like an animal and then training at a professional performance level. And now here's the thing: if you're lucky enough to have the best of both worlds, I mean, because I really do. As much as I believe, I just believe in both methods, and maybe that's because I'm old school. I mean, when Teddy Atlas trained Mike Tyson, I mean, you know, there wasn't heart monitors, there wasn't timed runs. It was fucking
just crack cocaine.
Wow.
No, you're right. He never smoked crack.
Okay,
we're out of time, folks.
That is the conclusion of our show. I was trying to make a solid point here.
That you shouldn't go up to a room at like 2 in the morning and you know, wasn't that the issue?
Really? Really?
That's why Tyson went to prison. I thought that's what we were talking about. No.
Ooh, he went there.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
We want to thank our sponsors, Mac 10. Don't say clothing.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, that is the conclusion of our show. It was a great pleasure having Jared on.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you all for having me.
And we're definitely going to bring Jared back. We're going to shoot a segment at Athlete Ready where Jared's actually training Danger and Josh, and he's going to put him through
and Eric as well.
I'm separate.
I got the Kevlar mesh. I don't know.
But we're definitely going to have Jared back on the show. We're going to check back in with him. We're going to get some footage of him training some of his athletes. But if you're out there and you're looking for a good strength and conditioning coach, doesn't matter where you're at, check out Athlete Ready. Check out Jared Saavedra. He's one of the best in the business. He's quickly building his name. He's quickly becoming the go-to guy. There are a lot of good trainers out there. You know, we want to make that clear. But you know, Jared is very, very well versed. Again, he knows what he's doing. It's not like he just jumped into this business. Like he said, he's been at it 10 years. You know, pushing 10 years now. And let me say this: no matter what we talk about and how sometimes our viewpoints are different. Sometimes the things we say might conflict with what each other thinks. Just always know that, you know, one of the things that we always try to push is having respect for each other's viewpoints, having humbleness. I say this at the end of every show. Don't let anybody tell you can't do something that you really, really want to do. You know, not one of us up here is new to hard work. We all know what it's like to get out there and grind. And don't let anybody tell you that you can't make your dreams come true. I think there's a real lack of support. And just know that, you know, we support you. You know, if you ever have any questions or you need help with anything, reach out to us on Facebook at The Focus Podcast. If you want to be a part of the show, reach out to us. If you want to sponsor the show, reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Focus Podcast. Athlete Ready. You can find them on Instagram, right?
Yes, at Athlete Ready.
Where are you located?
We're on 3520 Pan American Freeway, right between Candelaria and Comanche and Sweet Sea.
Okay, and you have a website?
www.athleteready.com.
Okay. And again, have faith in yourself, believe in yourself, go after your dreams, hard work every day. We talked a lot about the training, the conditioning, the types of fighters Jared trains, but really it's all got to come from the heart. You got, you know, and I say this a lot, you can teach a lot of things, but you can't teach heart, right? You gotta have the heart. You gotta have the will to want to get up every day and fight for your goals, fight for your dreams.
And help one another out. Don't be stepping on people.
Yeah, don't step on each other's toes. You know, make sure that you're always willing to lend a helping hand to someone who needs it, and be kind to each other, please. You never know what kind of day somebody else is having. You don't know your kind word to somebody could be the only kind word they've heard all day or all week. So, with that being said, Danger, would you like to close us out? Do you have anything to say?
Have a nice day, folks.